most successful of these new religious movements is, of course, the Mormons. Mormonism was founded by Joseph Smith in 1830 in New York. He publishes the Book of Mormon. Now, Smith was engaged in a profession of people at the time who believed that by using these magic rocks, they could divine where things were buried. And he would get hired to do this, to try to find precious metals and stuff like that for mining companies. And in fact was repeatedly sued and jailed for being unable to find these. But he claims in 1830 that he finds a magic rock that he uses in this way. You put it in this bag and you put your head in the bag, and I don't know much more than that. And it leads into some gold tablets that he digs up and translates into the story that becomes the foundational beliefs of Mormonism. And then he says an angel took the tablets away after he translated them, and so he can't show them to anybody else. The story on these tablets says that Jesus Christ came to the United States and visited two ancient civilizations after he died in Israel. One of these civilizations, and these are Native American civilizations, embraced him, and the other rejected him. And eventually this led to a massive war between those who had chosen to follow Jesus and those who had rejected Jesus. The ones that had rejected Jesus win, and they become what we call today the Native Americans. Mormon specifically is a guy, I believe he's the last survivor of those who followed Jesus, but I could be wrong about that. His church will come to be called the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and they believe Smith to be a divinely inspired prophet, which upsets many Christians because they see this as blasphemous, of course. He preached that no intoxicant should be consumed. This means not only no alcohol or drugs, but no caffeine. They also wore magic vestments, and these are long underwear that men and women both wore under their clothes at all times, regardless of the weather, that essentially protected their chastity. In order for a woman to go to heaven, Smith preached, she must be bound to a man. And so dying an unmarried woman was a terrible thing, if you were grown anyway. And that's going to have some implications here in a minute. Mormons believed that Smith was infallible, that he communicated with God, and so whatever he said was inarguably true in their belief. The Mormons began in New York, and then they moved. The New Yorkers began to become uncomfortable with them because their beliefs are different, of course. Then they moved to Ohio, where they are then harassed again, and then to Missouri, where Smith believes the Garden of Eden was. And in Missouri, they're going to have what we call the Mormon War, which is they're going to begin a violent conflict with the other folks in Missouri, the non-Mormons. They become very popular in Missouri. For one thing, they vote all in a block. Smith tells them, go vote for this person, which means they can control local government. They can't control the presidency or anything, but they can control mayors and things like that. And this causes a lot of upset. And of course, they're saying things that contradict what Christians believe, and so that makes people upset as well. They leave Missouri, and they go to Illinois. And in Illinois, Smith will begin teaching a doctrine of polygamy, the idea that men can marry multiple women. Smith originally begins a relationship with a teenage girl who has been sent to live with him, and then announces that he has been given the message that a man can have two wives. And then he begins a relationship with a third woman and announces that a man can have three wives, and then eventually will say a man can have as many wives as he wants. Well, this is very alarming to the people in the area who believe that polygamy was this terrible, awful, horrible sin. And so they're actually going to arrest Joseph Smith, throw him in jail, and then an angry mob is going to come down to the jail and lynch and kill Joseph Smith. The role of prophet devolves from Smith to his second-in-command, Brigham Young, who will lead the Mormons to Salt Lake City, Utah. Now, they go there to be left alone, to get away from this world that does not accept their beliefs. And we can see here their progression on this map. And they do very, very, very well. There is Brigham Young and some of his wives. He actually had a lot more than that. But the Mormons are also symbolic of the belief in human perfectibility. These are people who believe that by living better, by being more and more righteous, we can all become better and eventually possibly perfect human beings, which was prevalent at the time. A lot of the things that Smith believed are not really that unique to Mormonism in terms of philosophically. Now, his doctrine was specific to Mormonism, but think about it. Oneida had group marriage. It worked a little differently than this, but there were actually a number of utopian communities that began changing marital structure. That's the thing everybody focuses on. But many of Smith's ideas were actually kind of fairly common in these utopian communities at the time. Anyway, we'll pick up the story of the Mormons in later chapters, but that's our first encounter with them.